What is going on, everybody? I hope everybody's doing well out there in the ether, in the internet world. Welcome to this super fun Sunslay Sunday edition of Slay Security Plus. I am your host this evening, Jesse J, aka the Cosmic Cowboy, and here for the next hour or so, we're going to crush some Security Plus. We're going to start all over at Domain 1. We'll get into some housekeeping. I'm going to check chat and see who's joining us. I see ZMF, Toasty Pops. There's going to be others joining, so looking forward to that. So housekeeping, we're probably going to be moving to the weekends. Recently got hired as a cybersecurity specialist, woohoo, which is really exciting. But that takes up a lot of my midweek activities. And so when I get off of work, it's time for family. So Slay Security Plus will be moving to the weekends. I ran a poll on LinkedIn to see what everybody else thought, and it was about split down the middle between late nights on the weekdays or over the weekends. So we're going to try some weekend streams. And with that, we're going to roll back our domains. We're going to start all over with Domain 1 tonight, which is really exciting. All of my resources that I use, well, maybe not all of them, but our slides that we're going to be using tonight are linked in chat along with a video by Pete Zerger of Inside Cloud and Security. His slides that he does are phenomenal, and they're absolutely free. They're downloadable on any of his videos, so you can click that pin chat, download the slides and follow along, or just use them for your own resources. We're going to go over a little bit of what the Security Plus exam might look like for you. We're going to go into a little bit of lesson. We're going to cover a little bit of Domain 1, start with Domain 1.1 and 1.2. And then we're going to go into some review questions, some poll-based questions, and then we'll probably do some of the CompTIA official questions and some jaw jack and some mentorship along the way. Haircut Fish, what's going on? There's the Cosmic Cowboy. Yeehaw! There's a new sheriff in town. Let's go. PRB, good afternoon. God bless you all. God bless you as well, sir. Yes, we stayed home, my family. So on Wednesday after work, my wife had plans to go see 21 Pilots for their kickoff show. I'm a former touring musician, so music is a big part of our lives. She went up to go see 21 Pilots, so that meant after work on Wednesday. And Wednesday was a heavy log. I was just looking at logs and doing reports all day, which is super fun. That's what we trained for. After that, I drove to Colorado Springs. So it was a long flight, a long drive. And the next day, her and her sister jumped in the line at the ball arena at 8 a.m. And they toughed it out old school style. I've seen a lot of concerts like that, general admission. They got to be front and center with the band, which was super awesome. But then I came back and we're here now. And so we skipped church today. And so football this evening is going to be my church. DJ BSEC WTF Sunday stream. That's right, DJ BSEC. We are moving to either Saturdays or Sundays. Haven't decided on that yet, but Slay Security Plus will be moving to the weekends. Were all the pilots at the same airport? If you look at what that is about, I don't think any of the pilots are with us anymore. All right. I have a short bit of time, and I want to maximize all the people that are here, their time, anybody that's watching this on Team Replay. So we're going to get right into the studying. Before we do, I want to thank our session sponsor, Dr. Jerry Ozier and the Simply Cyber crew. Make sure that if you're looking for a very inclusive environment where you can level up your skill set, build community, all that good stuff, check out simplycyber.io. Let's pay some bills, and then let's get into the study.
Are you feeling lost in the vast world of cybersecurity, overwhelmed by technical jargon and confusing career paths? You're not alone. That's why I built Simply Cyber. Hi, I'm Dr. Gerald Ozier. Come join Simply Cyber, your supportive and inclusive community for navigating the exciting world of cyber. There's so much to take advantage of. Master the skills you need with Simply Cyber Academy, offering in-depth courses aligned with the GRC analyst role. Never feel isolated. Connect with fellow cyber enthusiasts and professionals in our thriving Discord server. Ask questions, get feedback, share your journey. Check out the Simply Cyber YouTube channel, delivering insightful interviews. What are your thoughts around, web app pen testing as entry level? And I included bug bounty here because that's very accessible to everybody. Practical skill demos and daily cyber threat briefs, all hosted by industry experts. There's so much more to discover. Are you ready to join the community and empower your future? Visit simplycyber.io/socials for all the links and start your cyber adventure today.
Woo! All right, let's get rolling. So I want to touch a little bit about some resources that I found that were very valuable to me. Now, these are not free resources, but I will tell you that, with a little bit of background in IT and just some endpoint security coming into the official cybersecurity realm, I did have a little bit of kind of knowledge coming in, but definitely not what is demanded of us now in 2024, or even over the last couple of years. Two courses that really helped me out, and they're not free, but it's worth every penny. I'll have to reload this, I'm sure. And that is TCI. This is not sponsored by TCM Security. They've asked me, we've talked about becoming an affiliate, but I don't want to be an affiliate for anybody, just like Tyler Ramsby. I want to be able to do things my own way and give out free resources when I can. But I will say that the TCM Security Academy products have absolutely revolutionized how I learned cybersecurity, and I learned a ton beyond like just hack the box or try hack me. And that's no diss on any of those platforms, because I know that you can learn a ton. I learned quite a bit in my foundational state. But what I love about, now look at this, for $30 a month, right? Which you're like, I don't have any money, Jess. I promise you, cut out a few subscriptions, maybe make coffee at home for a couple months, but invest in yourself. Let's say you do, I don't know, 3 months of subscription for $90, right? So $90, look what you get, the practical ethical hacking course. And this is all pretty straightforward. You can see what we have going on. A lot of these I've started and maybe I didn't finish them, but I learned a ton, or I was in an environment and I needed to prep for something. And so I have just found that these are awesome, okay? Second, I did do the GRC Analyst Masterclass, and I want to talk about that for a second. That course was phenomenal because it really helped me understand cybersecurity from a completely different perspective. Not just the policy and procedures, but really by going through the GRC Analyst Masterclass, you start to learn that our world of cybersecurity comes down to policy. It's a top-down system. I am learning that firsthand in the real world, that I can only do as much as the policy lets me. And so part of my job is actually to look over the policy that we have and potentially help rewrite that policy, right? And so I think the GRC Analyst Masterclass, which you can get on its own, but if you do it through the TCM Academy, that's also an option. Practical Ethical Hacking course, of course, phenomenal. That's a great course. And being that I am, at least at this stage in my career, more on the defensive side, they just released their SOC 101 course. I got all my VMs set up last night, so I'm not very far into the course, but I will tell you that what I love about it is it's informational. The person who is teaching it, I think his name is Andrew Prince, is very succinct. His communication style just speaks to me because he gets to the point really quickly. There's not a lot of sometimes, I can get a little long-winded and we can take some rabbit holes. There's not a ton of rabbit holes, which I really appreciate. But as you can see, we look at some tools, we look at phishing analysis, right? We look at different attack types. Then we have three different labs along with some additional practice. Then we go into network security, TCP dump, Wireshark challenge, right? Snort challenge. And so if you've got the extra cash, highly recommend the TCM security platform. Another thing to look at would be anti-siphon training. They've got their pay what you can courses. Again, phenomenal training. John Strand, former SANS instructor. They are getting ready to launch. I believe they're doing the SOC core skills classes coming up at the end of the month. August 26th, I believe, is the next one. August 26th. So they're starting. I got this course. I'll probably do it again, but it flies through some hands-on labs, and I cannot speak highly enough of this course. You can do it for $0, or you can do it for up to $575, depending on what you want to get with that. But pretty straightforward. You just you just register for it, and then there's a button where you can click for financial assistance, and you can pay $0, right? I typically would do the minimum $25-50 just as a way to say thank you to the team at Black Hills and anti-siphon training. So those two resources, between anti-siphon training, Dr. Jerry Ozier, and the TCM crew, I've built real world experience, resume bullets that I could speak to in an interview that impressed the employers at the time. So, okay, we got that out of the way. I think we did a little bit of housekeeping, moving to the weekends for Slay Security Plus. Sometimes you get long-winded. Nah, never, BSEC. Yo, Jay Gold, what's going on? I see Justin Gold, moderator for Simply Cyber. Hey, Regine Franklin, it's good to see you. Let's get into today's lesson. All right, so we're going to start again at domain 1. This is just taken from the CompTIA website. This is their whatever about the exam. It talks about the stuff in the exam. Just so we're all on the same page. We are doing the 701 because that's really kind of what everybody's at. It's a maximum of 90 questions with multiple choice and performance based, which we will get into those in our live streams. I don't think we're going to do any tonight, but we will get into those. Test length is 90 minutes. Okay, so 90 minutes and a maximum of 90 questions. So you can kind of do the math. That's roughly 1 minute per question, give or take. It says a recommended 2 years of experience in IT administration with a focus on security, hands-on experience with technical information security, and a broad knowledge of security concepts. I don't think you necessarily need the 2 years of experience in IT and all this stuff, but I will say that CompTIA, similar to other training courses, and this is just what I found after now being in the industry professionally and in my training, is that cybersecurity is definitely open and anybody can get into it, right? But I will say that cybersecurity is not in and of itself an entry-level field. You need to have a basic understanding of how networking works, right? Not just the social networking, the TCP stack, understanding the basics, understanding how operating systems work. You don't have to be a full-on command line cowboy to jump into information security, but it's really important that you have that basic knowledge. That's why stuff like the GRC Masterclass or the SOC Core Skills class, they do a good refresher. Try Hack Me also has a foundational class, foundational rooms, which are absolutely free. A great way to get some hands-on experience before jumping into the Security Plus. This is how they break it down, right? Domain 1, you've got about 12%. Domain 2, going over threats, vulnerabilities, and mitigations, 22%. Security architecture is 18% and then 28% and 20% respectively. We're going to start and hang out in the domain 1 tonight and for the next couple of sessions. So 12% of the exam, you can do the math, 12% of 90, well, 10% of 9. So what is that? 12 to, I don't know, I guess 15, 16 questions max out of 90. That's just some mental math. So you might want to make sure that I am correct. BSEC says, I'm listening but cooking dinner. What are you cooking for dinner tonight, DJ BSEC? Agent 57, LFG, welcome to the party, pal. Glad to have you here. Tonight, we are going to go through 1.1, and we're going to go through 1.2 all the way to, non-repudiation. And then we're going to go into some live questions. Command line Christopher Young, considering changing my username to Command Line Casanova. I like that. That's awesome. All right, let's get into it. Again, these slides can be found absolutely free if you go to YouTube. I've pinned the where I got these. It's a pinned comment here in chat, so go check that out. We're using Pete Zerger's Inside Cloud and Security, and his slides are absolutely free. They cost nothing, and they do a really good job if you have ADD or you look at things kind of visually. So let's get into it. Security Plus is going to want you to understand the technical, managerial, and then newly added for 701, the operational, and then the physical categories. And over here, we see a little bit more granular. We see control types, preventative, deterrent, detective, corrective, and compensating, respectively. Something for the exam, as you see here in the red line. And this first bit will be a little bit of death by PowerPoint, but just bear with us. We will get into the questions. It's good to know at least one example of each question, because even in 601, which is what I took, I did get popped with a few of these questions. All right, let's get started. Categories of security controls. First, we start with technical. We can think of these as the techno, the geeky side of what we do, right? Hardware, software mechanisms, and these are going to be used to manage the access to resources and systems, and they provide the protection for those resources and systems. Then we have physical security, and the point has been made before, there is no security if there is no physical security, right? If somebody can just walk into your data center, somebody can just walk into your wiring closet, whatever, then it's kind of game over, right? So physical security is security mechanisms that are focused on providing protection to the facility and real world objects. Locks, bollards, fences, cable locks, right, for our computers. When we think of managerial security controls, we think of policies and procedures. What? GRC, let's go. Administrative controls that are defined by an organization's security policy. Oftentimes we use planning and assessment methods to review the organization's ability to reduce and manage risk. We can look at that gap analysis and some vulnerability management. And then we have operational. And operational is the people. And this is the people that are helping to ensure the day-to-day operations of an organization, and they comply with their overall system security, primarily implemented and executed by people instead of systems, right? This could be security guards. This could be just people walking around checking to see, why are you here? What are you doing here? And we'll get more into that. Here's some examples of security controls. We see technical, encryption, right? Smart cards, passwords, biometrics, access control lists, firewalls, routers, IDSs, and IPSs. What are those? I'm brand new to Security Plus. IDSs is an intrusion detection system, and IPS is an intrusion prevention system. When we think of physical security controls, we can think of guards, fences, lights, motion detectors, guard dogs, video cameras, alarms, laptop locks. Managerial controls, GRC Mafia, what? Policies and procedures, hiring practices, background checks, data classification, security training, risk assessments, and vulnerability assessments. And then the operational side of things, the awareness training, the configuration management, media protection. Something to understand, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in these slides, is that these can be overlapping and some may fit into others depending on what the question is asking or depending on the context of what's going on in a scenario. Here's just another way to help link these ideas in your head. Is technical, we're thinking hardware and software. Physical, that's the physical world, things that are touchable, tangible. Managerial, policy and policy implementation, and then operational, people doing the stuff. If you want to look at it like this, we have our assets, whatever those may be. That could be, computers, it could be systems, that could be data, whatever that looks like. And then from the managerial, like I said, I guess top down or bottom up, however you want to look at this particular, but managerial, right? Our bosses, people making the policies, making the decision makers. Policies, then we go into the technical, and this is where the managerial sets the rules, the policy, and then we use hardware and software to implement those managerial policies that have been put into place, and that protects against logical attacks and exploits. You'll see the word logical used in the cybersecurity realm. Logical typically means logical is a computer, right? It's not something in the physical world. PRB says smart card can also be put in the physical category. That is correct, PRB. And you're going to notice as we go through these, and it talks about this in the slides, that a lot of these controls will fit in others, right? A camera can be both preventative because you see it and you're like, oh, I don't know. It can be detective because you can go back and look and see who was it, right? And so it depends on the context of both the question and then, what's going on. Operational, we see people-centric activities. This is the people that are enforcing and are making it happen. And then physical, prevent physical attacks on facilities and devices. Security control, security measure for countering and minimizing loss or unavailability of services or apps due to vulnerabilities. And oftentimes we do see the term safeguards and countermeasures can be used interchangeably. I like the way that Pete Zerger talks about this. Safeguards are typically proactive to reduce likelihood of occurrence, where countermeasures are reactive and reduce impact after occurrence. Now, let's get a little bit more granular with some of these control types. We have deterrent, preventative, detective, and compensating. Deterrent controls deployed to discourage a violation of the security policies. Preventative, deployed to thwart or stop unwanted or unauthorized activity from occurring. Detective, this is where we see things that are deployed to discover or detect an unwanted or unauthorized activity. And then compensating provides options to other existing controls to aid in the enforcement of security policies. Whenever I think of compensating, I think of backups. I think of power, right? UPS systems, something that if load balancing, something that if something goes down, we have something to protect it. Corrective modifies the environment to return states to a normal after an unwanted or unauthorized activity has occurred. If I was making my own notes at home, I would put corrective and then I would put after the fact, right? Corrective is happening after the breach has already happened, after the hack has happened. Then we put in a lot of times the corrective controls to restore these things to a normal state. Directive controls, these direct, to confine, or control the actions of subjects or force or encourage compliance with security policies. Here's some good examples. Preventative, deployed to stop unwanted or authorized activity from occurring, right? That's a good point, BSEC. Compensating, think short guy, big truck with a bunch of American flags in the back. Preventative, deployed to stop unwanted or unauthorized activity from occurring. This can be fences, locks, biometrics, man traps, alarm systems, job rotation, data classification, penetration testing, access control methods. Hey, Margarita Giron, welcome to the party, pal. Deterrent, deployed to discourage the violation of security policies. A deterrent control picks up where prevention leaves off. If you look at, there's some crossover here. We have locks and fences in both of them, security badges, security guards, lighting, security cameras, trespass or intrusion alarms, separation of duties, security policy, and security awareness training. Again, these can be interchangeably sometimes. Detective, deployed to discover unwanted or unauthorized activity, often are after-the-fact controls rather than real-time controls, not always, but often. An example of this could be security guards, guard dogs, motion detectors, job rotation, mandatory vacation, audit trails, intrusion detection systems, violation reports, honeypots, and incident investigations. Then directive. When I think directive, I always think of RoboCop, where he comes to life and his eyes have the main directives, right? Directives confine or control the actions of subjects to force or encourage compliance. Resistance is futile. With security policies, examples can be policies, procedures, standards, guidelines, physical signage, verbiage instructions, contracts, and agreements. Corrective, going back to corrective, deployed to restore a system to normal after an unwanted or unauthorized activity has occurred and minimal capability to respond to access violations. Examples of these can be backups, restores, patching, antivirus, anti-malware, forensic analysis, or disciplinary action, which I didn't think of disciplinary action as a corrective control, but I guess you're getting corrective. And then compensating, right? This is our big guy in a little truck. No, wait, sorry. Little guy in a big truck. I see this in my podunk town from time to time. Compensating, deployed to provide options to other existing controls to aid in the enforcement and support of a security policy. This can look at security policy, personnel supervision, monitoring, and work task procedures. Sandex Gurung says, do you share these slides? I did share them. If you look, we can see, or if you check out the pinned comment by me, it should be there. If not, just go to Pete Zerger's Inside Cloud and Security, and you can download those slides from here. And as PRB mentioned, oftentimes these controls will have multiple types of functions, and we can see them working together. I have definitely found that in the real world, that more than any of these being individual categorized, really they all just flow together, and you put them in context with what is going on in your environment. An example, a security camera is both a deterrent, like I said, or a detective to look at, go back and look at the footage. Context matters. The classification of a control can depend on how it's implemented and the specific risk it's addressing. So those are things that you're going to want to look at in the actual question when CompTIA asks you. Because a lot of times you'll see in these practice questions, you'll usually get a mini scenario followed by the question, right? So look in context to what it's asking. An example, an access control list can be the primary preventative if it blocks unauthorized access, or detective if it mainly logs access after later investigation. Let's say I am allowed to get somewhere, but then afterwards, maybe I change the logs, or I change something, those access control lists, which I don't know if I really like that one as much, but we see what they're saying here, right? That can be something that is preventative or detective if it mainly logs access for later investigation, right? Maybe I'm supposed to get in. Maybe I have the control or I'm allowed to get through whatever it is. So I get in the system and then I make some changes I'm not supposed to. Well, the access control list didn't prevent me because I was allowed to be in. But then we can go back and look like, hey, why did Jesse get in? Oh, he was the one that went in and made those changes when he wasn't supposed to. Carl. When we're taking our exam, we want to focus on some of these keywords, and I find that to be absolutely true in the test, is that you're going to look for keywords in the question and then in the answers. Some of these examples: a deterrent could be a warning, sign, visibility, perception. Preventative, access control, authentication, firewall, encryption, or preventing, right? A directive, policy, procedures, guidelines, standards. When I think detective, I think going back and looking at logs, audit trails, monitoring, right? Corrective, backup, restore, incident response, patching. Compensating, alternative backup, and redundancy. We're going to go into 1.2 for a little bit, and then let's get into some questions. I know I'm flying through this, but that's the point, is to get through this and get some information before we get some questions under our belt. Know the CIA triad by heart. This is something that I just thought was interesting that they're really hammering on this, because it really is why we're in the industry. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. If you're brand new to Security Plus, you're brand new to cybersecurity, it's imperative that you understand what these concepts are. Confidentiality. If you're not supposed to see it, you're not supposed to see it, right? Like access controls helps ensure that only authorized subjects can access the objects that they are supposed to. We'll get into authorized and authenticated here in a little bit. Integrity. This ensures that data or system configurations are not modified without authorization, right? So when we hash a file and then I download it, like my Kali Linux or whatever it is, Kali, the Linux organization is going to have a file hash on their website. And then I'm going to download it, and I'll get file hash, Windows PowerShell, get file hash, and then I'll get the hash of that file that I downloaded. And if it's the same one as Kali has posted on their website, then I know that that integrity has not changed from the time that I downloaded the file. Availability. Authorized requests for objects must be granted to subjects within a reasonable amount of time, right? Availability. The data should be there when it's there. Non-repudiation. This concept of non-repudiation has to do with really, you can't go back on what you said, right? As we see in the slide, non-repudiation is the guarantee that no one can deny a transaction or that something happened, that there was an email sent. Some methods to provide non-repudiation are digital signatures. They provide that a digital message or document was not modified intentionally or unintentionally from the time it was signed. Based on asymmetric cryptography, or PKI, which we'll get into, public and a private key pair. It's the digital equivalent of a handwritten signature, right? A stamped seal. It provides that it's repudiation in a publicly verifiable manner, okay? Non-repudiation is the ability to defeat or counter false rejection or refusal of an obligation with irrefutable evidence. Shared accounts and identities prevent non-repudiation. Talk about the AAA protocols: authorization, authentication, and accounting services. Authentication, you are going to hear these words over and over again. Authentication is it's a use or a service that proves the identity with some type of credential, such as username and a password. I am who I say I am. Eric McClelland. Love it. I'm running patches on servers while listening to this. Let's go. Doing the work. Love this, right? So authentication, I am who I say I am. Authorization, right? Authenticated users. So once we're authenticated, Jesse is who he says he is. He is the cosmic cowboy. Well, what am I allowed to access? What resources or systems have I been granted access depending on who I am, based on the roles and permissions assigned to their identity? And then accounting. Methods to track user activity and record these activities in logs. Track users' activity and resource accesses are part of the audit trail, so that we can go back and we can be accountable that Jesse had the authority and it really was him that accessed or changed or whatever it is with that service or resource. Just to hammer it home a little bit more, identification, subjects claim an identity, and identification can be as simple as a username for a user. CompTIA also brings it a little bit more detailed. I sign up to an organization. Let's say I get my first day. I give them my name and they give me a number. That is my identification. Maybe it's not Jesse Johnson, Cosmic Cowboy. Maybe it's I'm 1053332. That's my employee number. That's still a method of identification. So don't get hung up on username or passwords, right? It can be you are now employee 6357. Okay. I hope that's not my actual badge number. Just kidding. Authentication, this comes after we identify who we are, right? Subjects prove their identity by providing authentication credentials, such as the password for a username, right? So identification is I become who I say I am. Authentication is proving I am who I say I am. And then the authorization, right? After authenticating a subject, then we say, all right, Jesse is who he says he is, and he in fact does have the authority to access these files, to get into the system, to go into the data center. And then accountability, I'm accountable, right? So we have to keep accountable to ourselves. Well, maybe if we're not accountability to ourselves, our organizations are going to provide methods within their organization of audit logs and audit trails, record events, including the identity of the subject that performed the action. I can't give too many details, but last week we had I came into work and there was 38 alerts of varying priorities, all the way up, not the critical, but some high alerts, and I had to go through and sift through logs and records. This is the accountability that somebody went outside of their authority, and then once that happens, I had to determine who that user was and make a recommendation, provide a report. So that was like day 4 of work. Hit the ground running. Again, why is accountability helpful and why is it important? Because it provides an audit trail for investigation, right? It promotes good user behavior because I don't want to get in trouble because I know the bosses are going to see. And so you might see questions around that in the exam, and we'll see some examples of those. But again, it's not just for people. Systems and devices have identities as well. Here's some examples. Virtual machines, or VMs, have managed identity managed by a platform to access a resource such as data. And client devices have machine identities. In mobile device management platforms, this is a great example. So we have a mobile device management policy at our work that our mobile devices have, basically you get on with the company, and whatever their mobile device management is going to look like is going to maybe look different from organization to organization. But basically, once you walk in with that mobile device and you're on company time, that there's some things that you're not going to be able to access. And maybe something like a remote wipe could happen from the company if your mobile device is compromised. So it's not a person, it's a device. But we still have logging, right? I can go back and look through the logs of what somebody was doing, maybe not super granularly, but what they were doing with their mobile device. Domain 1.2, continuing on, non-discretionary access controls, right? Enables the enforcement of system-wide restrictions that override object-specific access control. RBAC, or role-based access control, is considered non-discretionary. My role is cybersecurity specialist or analyst. My role allows me to have permissions to a lot of things, but not everything, right? I don't get to just go into the accounting share. Maybe I can get into the accounting share, but there's going to be files that I don't need to see and I'm not allowed to see because I'm not part of the accounting team, and I would need to say, hey, my role is cybersecurity, right? So the accounting guys, they can't go back and just jump on the SIM or look at my logs and get into my information because their role is that they are in accounting. Discretionary access controls. This is user basic or user centrist. In this model, the key characteristic is that every object has an owner, and the owner can grant or deny access to any other subject, right? So a way to look at this is Windows New Technology File System. When you look at your files, let's see if I can look at an example of this without doxing myself too much. We can probably look at properties, kind of look at permissions here, security, right? So you can, I don't know if you can't see that's very big, but permissions for this system, right? For me. So these are some things that are signed to that file. And you could change those depending on, right? The object has an owner and I am the owner of said files. We went back to role-based access control. The key characteristics of this one is the user or the group of assign, and instead of assigning permissions directly to users, user accounts are placed in roles and administrators assign privileges to the roles, typically mapped to job roles. Rule-based access control, the key characteristic is that global rules apply to all subjects. All right, that's a good way to look at that, as global rules are going to apply to all the subjects within a model and are sometimes referred to as restrictions or filters. And the example they give us is a firewall uses rules that allow or block traffic to all users equally, right? Hey, Marvin Meltz, Team SC, welcome to the party, pal. Mandatory access control. This is a big one. A key point about Mac model is that every object and every subject has one or more labels. These labels are predefined, and the system defines the access based on assigned labels. Very similar to what we showed earlier with the files, the object and the owner, that those systems are not discretionary and really have to do more with, right? The example here is in military security, a data owner does not set access, right? Just because I own the data doesn't necessarily mean that, and we'll get more into with the data owner, and we've had a few questions on that. Let's see how far we... Attribute access controls. Access is restricted based on an attribute of the account, such as department, location, or functional design or designation. For example, admins may require user accounts have the legal department attribute to view contracts. So basically, what they're saying here is like admins may require that a user account, a standard user, is supposed to have the legal department attribute assigned to their user, right? Your user account, but you need to have that legal department attribute assigned to who you are to be able to view contracts. What is a subject and what is an object? A subject is a user, group, or service accessing the resource known as objects. Objects are the resources such as files, folders, shares, printers, or anything that's accessed by the subjects. They do come up often in discussion of access control, so you should be familiar with the exam. All right, that's a quick run through of up to 1.2, and we'll continue that on. Let's get into some live questions. We're going to start first with some official CompTIA questions. We're going to do a handful of these, and then we'll go into the fun polling system. Can I make this any larger? Can't make any larger. So in this version of taking questions, feel free to put what you think is the best answer in chat. And there is no wrong answer. Well, I mean, there is a wrong answer, but that moment when you are watching a live stream and keep thinking people are sending your Discord messages. Does my thing keep booping and beeping? Here, let's shut it down. An information technology department, or IT department, is growing to a size where its need for a new group to manage security. The CEO, or Chief Executive Officer, wants to hire a new executive officer for the role and split it into its own department, separate from the IT department. The CEO should hire for which position? A CIO, B, a CTO, C, another CEO, or D, a CISO? Justin Rohr, welcome to the party, pal, says A. Toasty Pop says D. D, a CISO, I think. So AB and Sandex, Garong, and some others. Let's look at the question, look for some keywords, right? Wants to hire a new executive officer. Very important to the question and what the C means in each of these. So we can definitely count out, we'll take C off because we don't think they're going to need another CTO. Chief Technology Officer? Maybe, but I don't think it's B either, right? And the reason I don't think it's B is because we're looking at IT more than just the technology, looking for that information piece. So it's either between final answer. I see a lot of A and I see a lot of D. Luke Jones, certified ethical hacker. Welcome to the party, pal. What do we think? I'm going to go with A. But maybe not. Managed security, chief information officer. A CISO is chief information security officer, right? Yeah, those are good points. Those are very, very good points. Now that I read through my head, if I was taking the test, I'd say, well, we got chief information officer or chief information security officer, and he wants to hire a new executive for to manage security, right? The question is asking us to manage security, and it's the IT department is growing in size for a new group to manage security, so IT security. I changed my mind. I'm going to roll with D. Confirm. We are correct. The correct answer is D. Let's look at some of the answers and why they're wrong. The chief information officer is responsible for the company's equipment and infrastructure. The chief technology officer is similar to the chief information officer, but focuses on the company's technology products rather than the products the company uses. And we notice CEOs. Yep, I saw that too. I saw security in the question, and that's why it's super important that you read the question. Thoroughly read it a couple times. A newly hired CISO, or Chief Information Security Officer, is implementing the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, cybersecurity framework. What first function would help the CISO better develop the company's security policies, such as acceptable use policy and build out recommendations for security controls? A, protect, B, identify, D, detect, or D, respond. C, detect, or D, respond. This is a good one. Where is my cookie? Interesting. Okay. Just wanted to take a look for myself. What first function would help the CISO better develop the company's security policies, such as acceptable use policy and build out recommendation for security controls? Yep, I agree with B. Let's hit it. Boom! Let's go. The identify function of the NIST cybersecurity framework refers to developing security policies and capabilities. The CISO preparing policies and controls would fall into this identify function. The second function of the security framework is to protect, referring to the procurement, development, and deployment of IT assets and how to defend against malicious actors. The framework's third function is detect, which refers to ongoing proactive monitoring to ensure the controls are effective and capable of protecting against new threats. And finally, the fourth function of the framework is to respond, or how a company would identify, analyze, contain, and eradicate threats to systems and data security. Remember, when we're looking at the framework here with the NIST cybersecurity framework, that protect, identify, detect, and respond is not the same thing as the incident response framework, right? The identify doesn't mean you're looking at IDS logs or IPS logs. When we're looking at the cybersecurity framework from NIST, that identify function has to do with identifying your assets and what needs protecting. So really important to have those under your belt. After restoring from backup, a file from backup, the owner of a small company wants to better understand the purpose of permissions. A particular situation occurred, and even though there are permissions on the shared drive, why does the company still not know who deleted the file? The engineer explained that enable file auditing would help pinpoint all changes to the shared drive and who made them. How would this help prevent the lack of knowing who changed the files? A, confidentiality, B, non-remediation, C, non-repudiation, or D, availability. So even though there's permissions on the shared drive, why does the company still not know who deleted the file? The engineer explained that enabling file auditing would help pinpoint all changes to the shared drive and who made them. Let's start going through some of these answers and crossing them out, why they're not correct, right? Well, confidentiality, that has to do with making sure that people aren't seeing what they're not supposed to see, right? If it's my knowledge only, my eyes only, I'm the only one that needs to be able to see it. This question isn't addressing that. Non-remediation, well, that's just a red herring. That's just an answer that's going to try and throw us off. Non-remediation means that nothing was fixed. There is nothing was remediated. So we know it's not that. Availability, that has to do with being able to access the data or the service when we need to access it in a reasonable time. Right? So we know it's not availability, leaving them with the one thing, which is non-repudiation. Non-repudiation, as we learned in the lesson previous to this, non-repudiation has to do with audit trails, right? I can't say that I didn't do something because the audit trail, the logs say, no, Jess, you were the guy that went in there and you were the one that deleted the file. AB, that's a great way to put it. Non-repudiation is the inability to deny responsibility or obligations. Love it. Thank you, sir. That's better than CompTIA's way. So I like that. Let's go with C. Non-repudiation. We are correct. Non-repudiation means a person cannot deny doing something such as creating, modifying, or sending a resource. For the company, this would mean enabling file auditing on a share. We talked about the others. They're really straightforward, so I'm not going to go into those. Let me know in chat if you like these official questions, if you like this style of going through it and kind of breaking it down after the lesson. I think we might move into a little bit more teaching, followed by the questions, teaching questions. All right. An engineer for a small company is trying to explain the importance of security to the company's owner. The owner feels the company does not need permissions added to the shared drive containing highly sensitive information. What security concept means that information can only be read by people who have explicitly authorized access it? What security concept means that information can only be read by people who have been explicitly authorized to access it? Jesse, you are allowed to see it. Jeff Jenkins says, I'm digging it. Cool, works for me. Is it A, confidentiality, B, integrity, C, availability, or D, recovery? What do you think? Toasty Pops is going with A. And remember, and you guys are doing a great job, class, that if you're not sure, you're putting in the answer that you think it is. It's okay to disagree with other people. It's okay to be completely wrong. I said this before. Last year at Wild West Hacking Fest, we did a Slay Security Plus. Keith Adams from TCM came on stream. Zach Hill from TCM at the time came on stream. Dr. Jerry Ozier came on stream, and we all got questions wrong. It's okay to be wrong, as long as you're learning something. Well, highly sensitive information, meaning that only certain people are going to be allowed to see it, right? Only certain people who authenticate and say they are who they say they are. And then they have the authority, so the authorization to see that data means that they can see it. What security concept means that information can only be read by people who have been told they can see it, who have the permission to see it, right? Well, integrity has to do with data not being changed or systems not being changed or reconfigured from the way that they were before. So we know it's not integrity. Well, we just talked about availability, right? Availability has to do with data being available or services being available in a reasonable amount of time, or depending on what your service agreement says, right? So there's availability. And recovery, well, that has to do with getting back from backups, right? Or recovering power to a system, or going to a hot site because your site went down. So it's not recovery. I think we're all correct on this one. Boom. As AB said it, confidentiality is the protection of data from unauthorized access and disclosure. Man, you are with it. Like it. Here we go. More of the compensating, deterrent, directive, and corrective questions, right? An information technology manager conducted an audit of the company's support tickets. That word audit may be important. The manager noticed that a trend with the tickets, where the majority were for new computer setups. What security control function would the manager's implementation of a new standard operating procedures have? A, compensating, B, deterrent, C, directive, or D, corrective? This is a great example of a CompTIA question, and we can see in the question it's giving us a little clue right here. Operating procedure. A new standard operating procedure. Implementation of a new standard operating procedure. I see a few people saying D and lots of C. Let's go through these as a team. We've talked about compensating controls, right? Maybe one of the compensating controls is that we make sure that we have a good, anti-malware system on all of our computers, so that if maybe the IDS doesn't pick up something, or the IPS misses something, or something gets through the firewall, well, then that compensating control would be that the anti-malware system on our computers won't let that file execute. That won't let that executable run on the system. So maybe it got through the firewall, right? So that was one control. Oops, it went through. Well, now the compensating control is, well, that security control is it won't be able to execute on our system. ZMF, are you leaving? Bye. It's good to have you, my friend, my fellow shroom buddy. Compensating. So we can take off compensating. Well, corrective, and somebody mentioned corrective. Justin, we're going to have to be team replay. This is hard while taking the dog for a walk. See y'all tomorrow. See ya, Justin. See ya, pupper. Right, so corrective. Remember, corrective is something that is happening after the fact. And while this question does say that there are some incidences or some support tickets, we're not really noticing, it's not really necessarily an incident, and it's a corrective, right? So we're not restoring from backup. We're not We're not training people in a new way of doing things. One of the things that stands out to me about this question, right, is this part. It's a manager, so it's top down, and it's the implementation of a new operating procedure. Okay. So to me, I'm thinking like Toasty Pop says, if I give a team a new standard operating procedure, I am directing them to follow it. Therefore, I think it's directive. Let's consult with AB and see what AB says. AB says directives are often policies and guidelines that establish rules and standards for organizations to maintain a secure environment. I think that in and of itself leads us to select C. What do you think, team? Let's roll with it. Correct. A directive control enforces the rule of behavior such as policy, best practice standard, or a standard operating procedure. I saw corrective was in there. Corrective controls eliminate or reduce the impact of a security violation. A corrective control happens after the attack. Compensating controls are a substitute for a principal control as recommended by a security standard and often afford the same or better level of protection. However, they are used use a different methodology or technology. We're about halfway done, team. Let's go, class. After a company hires a new CISO or Chief Information Security Officer, the CEO requests that the CEO hire staff for the new team. Hire me. Hire some of these wonderful folks here in chat. The purview of the team will be for monitoring and protecting critical information assets throughout the company. What best describes the location of this new team within the structure of the company? A SOC or Security Operations Center, B, a NOC or Network Operations Center, C, the help desk, or D, MSP or Managed Service Provider. AB, I am enthusiastic and I'm feeling shy too, LOL. I don't know about that. You're laying down some really well-worded. I would love to collaborate with you. Hit me up on LinkedIn. You got some really well, whether you're getting it from ChatGPT, I don't care where you're getting them from. You're wording the concepts, I think, better than CompTIA does themselves. So we appreciate you being in chat. I see some new faces. I see Accessory. Welcome to the party, pal. Always awesome, am. Welcome to the party. The CISO is in charge of operating some new teams, right? Their goal is going to be in this operational component of protecting critical assets, right? Through, what does it say? Through monitoring and responding. That all tells me that it's not an MSP, right? Managed service provider. The help desk is important, but the help desk is going to be used, might be that first line. Hey, something's going on. Maybe this, oops, I almost gave it away. Maybe somebody in this operations center didn't see it. My computer's acting funny. It's slow. The NOC, which may have security professionals implementing certain things at that networking level, but that's our network operations control. This to me is a SOC, a security operations center. All right. So we went through these, and like I was saying at the help desk, this words it pretty well for me. A help desk or level 1 support team handles the company's first line of ticket resolution. This could be everything from my printer won't work all the way to the mouse is moving on the screen and I'm not touching it, right? Something else is in there. Depending on the company's size, they may also do some SOC or NOC related activities. Class, you all are slaying it today. Absolutely slaying it. What component of modern access controls determines what rights a user should have on each resource? A, authentication, B, authorization, C, identification, or D, accounting? AB coming in hot. SOC is a team of IT security professionals that monitor the organization's IT infrastructure for cyber threats 24/7. What component of modern access controls determines what rights users should have on each resource? Let's go. Eric McClellan's in a knock right now, working on the Sunday night. Broncos play against the Packers here in a little bit. That is my boss's favorite team. I don't know if he's watching, but if you are, hey boss, go Broncos. Right, you guys in chat, class, you're nailing it. You're nailing it, right? Authentication is that status of saying, hey, I'm the user, so I've already logged in. I am who I say I am. I am who I say I am. Right? So that's not the authentication piece. The identification piece has to do with me getting that identification, whether it's a number, a sign, or maybe it's just a username, whatever the organization is giving you, right? They're taking away your name and they're giving you a number. Secret agent, man. Right? So it's not, we know, wow, I'm trying to click on the wrong thing. So we know it's not the accounting piece or the identification piece. And then remember, class, we talked about it in the beginning. The accounting piece has to do with our audit trails and logging. So we know it's not the audit trail. I agree with all of you that is authorization, and that is correct. Or as AB puts it, authorization is the process of granting user or device permissions to access a resource based on their identity and permission level. After implementing the NIST cybersecurity framework, the CISO is assessing the company's security posture to identify deficiencies within the framework's recommendations. What process can the CISO run to get a better sense of what the company needs to improve on? It's a good question. A, implement a business continuity plan. B, a penetration test. C, implement a disaster recovery plan. Or D, a gap analysis. Part of my new role, which my boss was talking to me about, is conducting pen tests on our environment. But that won't be until after we get some policies squared away and get our cybersecurity infrastructure, our posture a little stronger than what I'd like to see where we're at now. Aw. AB, that means the world, man. Team SC, Jesse, DJ BSEC, Dr. Jerry Ozier, Kimberly Can Fix It, and more. You guys are a tremendous inspiration to me. I'll tell you what, AB. People like you that show up, put in the work, that are here, helping, just answering questions. You, and I'm not, this is not hyperbole or hyperbolic, as Jerry would say. You're an inspiration to me. You're an inspiration to all of us to show up, put in the work, keep going. Whether you get the answer right, whether you get the answer wrong, you're doing the stuff. And I absolutely love that. So thank you for the comment. I took a screenshot of that. I'm going to pass it along to Jerry because, you know, it means a lot to us. So a few people are putting P or BP, there's no P, are putting penetration tests. There's a few things that at first glance may lead you to believe, all right, we've got some things. Nice. AB says I got Sec Plus certified a couple of weeks ago. Let's go. So there are some things here that could lead us to believe a pen test is what they're asking for, right? Assessing the company's security posture to identify deficiencies from the framework's recommendations. This process in and of itself is something very specific, right? A pen test is where we go in and we identify vulnerabilities and then we actually move forward and exploit them to then show that, yeah, you have all these things, right? So I would look at what this question is asking as something that happens even before we do a pen test, right? We're doing this to learn to do this before we run a pen test. So it's probably not a business continuity plan. We should hopefully already have that in place. A pen test, like I said, is something that we would come in and do maybe afterwards. A disaster recovery plan, which is really important, but we should either already have that implemented or maybe we're working on it. I think, and some of you here in chat also agree, that we're looking at gap analysis, right? A gap analysis is the process where we've maybe implemented as many controls as we can, or I'm coming in, this is what I'm actually doing now, is I'm looking at where we're at in our infrastructure. And what you're doing is you're actually looking at it, you're looking at it from a framework. You're not just going in with a clipboard and saying, well, you have this, you don't have this, we better implement some things. You're actually comparing it to a framework that's already out there. And so this one is saying that they're using this cybersecurity framework, right? So we know that that's the framework. Those are the controls that we're going to look at to see what we have. The CISO is going to run a gap analysis to say, all right, well, this is what the cybersecurity framework says we should have, and this is what we have. That area in the middle, the deficiencies that we have, is the gap. So what he is running, I believe, is a gap analysis. And we're correct, right? The CISO will be preparing a gap analysis report. This report shows the deficits, the defects. That's a typo. I think it's supposed to be deficits. Shows the deficits in the company's current security posture against the framework, and this can be any baseline framework. They're just using the NIST cybersecurity framework as an example for this question, but I'm glad they say this could be any baseline, right? We have a baseline, then we see where we're at, and in the middle is our gap. This is a gap analysis. Now, the CISO would not be performing a pen test. However, this task may show up as a remediation step during the gap analysis report. So maybe the gap analysis shows that a lot of areas of your infrastructure are looking pretty secure, but you don't have there are no assessments outside of a paper assessment. There is no pen test, right? We're not penetration testing to see, are the controls actually as good as they say they are? Is our blue team as good are they catching the pen tester, right? Are they catching it? And so I like that. Again, like a penetration test, implementing a disaster recovery plan or a DRP would likely be a remediation step for any defects or deficits that the CISO finds during the gap analysis. A medium-sized mechanical engineering firm wants to better define the account creation process during the onboarding of new hires. It's looking to ensure that the new hires have the right programs, file permissions, and security controls implemented ahead of time through automation. What modern access control implementation would aid the company's account creation process? IAM, or Identity and Access Management. B, LDAP, or Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. C, CISO, or Chief Information Security Officer. Or D, CTO, or Chief Technology Officer. AB, you're on fire. The CompTIA answers guy was sleeping when he provided explanations. Has anybody ever seen The Departed? Where he's sitting there and he's like, who are you? I remember who it is, but he's like, I'm the guy doing his job. You must be the other guy. Love that part. I love that movie. Yeah. All right. I see some of our students put LDAP. Remember that lightweight directory access protocol. I think of LDAP as the protocol that runs our Active Directory, right? Lightweight directory. So a lightweight, it's light on the system. It's lightweight, doesn't require too many resources when I think of lightweight. And then directory access protocol. We could take off CTO, CISO, we could take off LDAP, and right, IAM, or Identity and Access Management, is this process of doing all the fun things this question says. AB says, LDAP is mainly for authentication. Yep, LDAP, you sign into your work computer, you sign in with your username and your awesome password of password1 2024 exclamation point, and it checks with the Kerberos ticket granting ticket system and says, yep, this is him. Let him into the system. Active Directory, let you in. It's our directory access. Boom. After a recent server outage, the company discovered that an employee accidentally unplugged the power cable from the server while grabbing some office supplies from a nearby shelf. Carl! What security control did the company lack that led to the server outage? A, managerial, B, technical, C, operational, or D, physical? Ooh. Thank you, AB. That's a great explanation. IAM and LDAP are used together to provide a comprehensive identity and access management solutions. Love it. Ooh, this one's tough. For me, let me look. Unplug the power cable from the server. Why is it okay? Grabbing office supplies, and there's a server. I'm already envisioning this server room, and I'm getting anxious. Coming from the world of rock and roll and pedal boards and guitar stuff, I'm a freak when it comes to cable management. I like things crystal clean. Now, when I'm recording or just messing around, I don't mind if things are in piles, even though it still drives me crazy. In a production environment, and I know it's easier said than done, man, those cables gotta be run smooth and labeled and things put away where they're supposed to go. Everyone's saying D. Managerial, probably not managerial. Technical controls, remember hardware, software, Jesse, so that's probably not it. Operational is the employee grabbing the stuff. But if it was better, if the server was put in its own environment that wasn't near office supplies, it probably wouldn't have happened. So I agree with all of you, class, on the answer D. Let's see. Yep. Physical controls such as alarms, gateways, locks, lighting, and security cameras deter and detect access to premises, which, yeah. After a server outage due to a security breach, a company has taken several steps to recover from the incident. They have restored critical data from the latest backups and applied urgent security patches to address the exploited vulnerabilities. The security team has updated the incident response plan to incorporate lessons learned from the breach. What category of security control functional type best describes the function of these recent implementations? A, corrective, B, preventative, D, detective, or D, operational? While you all are choosing an answer, we're seeing the word best and most pop up in these questions. You will see those on the live exam, and this is always indicative of what I call a weighted question. CompTIA does give partial credit on some of their questions, including the PBQs. One of the ways that you can tell that you could get partial credit from a question is when you see the word best. That might mean that there's two answers here. One might be better and one might be best. Why it's always so important that you put down the answer that you think is best, because maybe you don't get the best answer, but when CompTIA runs it through their ones and zeros grading algorithm, you may see that you get partial credit for getting the answer that was just better than the others. I like corrective. Is everybody else going with A? Let's blast this one. Let's just do it. Pretend we're in the exam and we're running out of time. Correct. Corrective controls eliminate or reduce the impact of a security violation. A corrective control occurs after an attack. In this scenario, the actions aim to directly address the damage caused by the outage and improve the recovery process. We're almost done, fam. Great job, class. I think we're at 100%. A newly hired CISO met with the Human Resources Department, HR, just kidding, HR, I love y'all, to discuss how to better manage the company's access to sensitive information. In what way does this meeting fall under the responsibility of the new CISO? A, monitoring audit logs. B, reviewing user permissions. C, documenting access controls. Or D, managing security-related incident response. How to better manage the company's information. C, documenting access controls. How to better manage. It's either going to be, it's not A, monitoring audit logs, and it's definitely not D, managing security-related incident response. It's either going to be B or C, reviewing user permissions. How to better manage. All right, you guys are going with C. I'm going to roll with C too. Let's go. I thought it was B. That's what I was going to go with. Pierre, B, you are correct. And that's what I would have gone with, was B. I went with the class, and that's okay. So we're going to learn something. Documenting access controls also follows under the CISO role, but would likely not fall under a joint role with HR unless they manage badge access. However, this scenario does not match in any kind of badge access. Working with human resources to ensure the proper user permissions for their given role falls under the security aspect, right? So we're reviewing the user permissions. It's all right. HR beat me today, man. HR beats up on a lot of us. All right, team, class, you guys absolutely, guys and gals, humans, robots, systems, whoever's joining us tonight, you absolutely slayed it with a 92%. So that was our lesson 1 tonight. Thanks for tuning in. I hear the family getting restless. It is football Sunday here in the Cosmic Cowboy home. And so we're going to go review, make some dinner. I think we're going to do homemade wings tonight and fries. We're going to watch some football. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for staying with us for so long, answering the questions, getting yourselves out there, doing the best you can, agents. I just watched a late night viewing of The Matrix before my first day at work with my wife, Mr. Anderson. I love The Matrix. Anyways, my name is Jesse J. You all out there are Slay Security Plus. You can catch me tomorrow. I'll be helping Jerry moderate the Simply Cyber Daily Threat Brief. Again, I thank you all for being here, and I look forward to. I like this Sunday time. What do you all think? This was great. Definitely, I got more input and probably more viewers than we do on a Thursday. So we'll be going to the weekends. Again, thank you for being here. I got to run. Take care of yourselves and use passphrases.